is the Relentless CEO podcast.
Welcome to our newest episode of the Relentless CEO podcast. I'm your host, Adam Kifer. I am stoked for today. We're going to be a little bit controversial, which shouldn't be a departure from what we regularly cover on this show. But we're going to be talking about the 7 sins of the martial arts industry. Ooh, 7 sins. What does that mean? We're talking about the 7 biggest mistakes that we see school owners making on a daily, weekly, monthly basis that is preventing them from growing and getting to the next level. And as a result, these are pretty much industry-wide issues for the most part. There's always outliers. There's some killer school owners in this industry that are exceeding at a lot of what these sins would normally be for most martial arts schools. But for the average martial arts school owner, these are 7 of the biggest challenges we see them facing that they're not able to overcome to grow their business. And one of the things that we do is when we start working with martial arts school owners is we really start to address these 7 different areas and give them systems and structure and plans to help them to really grow in these different areas and take their business to the next level. So let's kick it off. And I'm going to apologize, guys, if I look sweaty or messy. I came straight from training Muay Thai. I got a fight coming up on May 26th. So I'm in full training mode. So if my hair is a mess or I'm looking a little disheveled, you guys know why. All right, let's jump into it. These are the 7 sins of the martial arts industry. Sin number 1, lack of vision. Pretty broad, right? Here's what I mean. A lot of us that are running martial arts schools or fitness studios, we're the CEO of the business, or we should think of ourselves as the CEO of the business. One of the primary responsibilities of being a CEO of any business, whether it's a Fortune 500 company or a martial arts school, is having a clear and vivid vision for what the future holds for your business and for your people in the business. Now, I'm going to walk you through this, and disclaimer, I learned all about this from, I think, the GOAT of Vivid Vision, which is Cameron Herold. He literally has a best-selling book called Vivid Vision that outlines exactly how to create what I'm about to talk to you about. So I encourage all of you guys to go on Amazon, buy Vivid Vision by Cameron Herold. It will be a game changer for your business. But here's what I'm talking about. Every single person listening to this podcast should have a clear vision of where their business is going to be in the next 3 years. The reason we say 3 years is because 3 years is a bit easier for your employees and your team members to grab a hold of than doing a 5 or 10 year vision. Now, you as a CEO should still understand that 5 years from now, my business should be here, or 10 years from now, my business should be here. But for the purpose of this exercise, let's just focus on the next 3 years. Now, having a vivid vision is actually meaning that it's not living up here in your brain, but you're creating a document that outlines your vision that you can share with anybody. You can share it with your team members. You can share it with business partners, vendors, potential hires. Imagine how far apart you would set yourself from the competition if you're running a job ad and attached to that job ad is your Vivid Vision document, which shows a 3-year vision of where your business is going. Do you think any other job that person is applying for is getting a copy of a Vivid Vision plan for the future of the company they're applying to? Absolutely not. So it's setting you apart, right? This is why I love that Cameron Herold wrote a book on this. You have to know what the next 3 years are going to look like. And when we think about the next 3 years and our vision for this, I want you to focus and hyper-focus on a couple different areas. So the first area you need to focus on is sales and marketing, aka revenue and growth. Right? What is your revenue going to look like 3 years from now? What is your growth going to look like? What's your average student value going to look like? Are you still going to be at 1 location? Are you going to be at 2? Or are you going to be at 3 locations? So think of it from a sales and marketing perspective as well. How much are you going to be spending on marketing 3 years from now compared to what you're spending now? Then I want you to take a look at what your team is going to look like 3 years from now. Are there going to have to be some new roles that you create in your business that you'll need 3 years from now that you don't need necessarily right now? So one of the things that when we did our 3-year vision for Move Martial Arts is we put in there some roles that we currently don't have, because we're going to need a COO of the franchise. We're going to need a regional manager because we're going to have multiple locations in 3 years. So we put those things into our future for what the team is going to look like. And the great thing is, when you finish this document, you sit down and you go over it with your team. And when they start hearing about the potential for the future and the new roles created for the future and the growth potential for the future, think about how bought in they are going to be to your business and to sticking with your martial arts school, especially if you are a school that struggles with losing people when they go to college, losing your team members when they go to college. Most likely is because they don't understand what the future looks like with you. They don't understand what their trajectory looks like with you. So as the CEO of our company, we have to be the ones providing that vision to them. And part of that is showing what your team's going to look like in 3 years. Then I also want you to think about what your facility or facilities, maybe you're going to expand to multiple locations, what are those going to look like in 3 years? What upgrades are going to be made? It's funny, we did this for the agency. For those of you guys that don't know, I run a marketing agency for martial arts and fitness studios. When we did this for Relentless Media Agency, the thing that it triggered was not only about painting this vivid vision for the future, but when I started to think about what our headquarters was going to be in the future, a lot of the things I wrote down, I started thinking, well, why can't this be now? And as a result, this studio was built, right? We actually, no joke, I created the vivid vision, and then looking through it, I reached out to my realtor because I was like, I want to get out of our current lease and get into a bigger place. So we moved to a 5,000 square foot office, and literally multiple things that were in that vivid vision for what our headquarters would look like in 3 years, we already have at our current headquarters that we moved into a couple months after creating this vivid vision. So as you start to plan this, you're going to start to see some things that you can start moving on and taking action on now to really help start pushing your company towards that direction. The other thing I want you guys to think about, besides your team, your location, sales, and marketing, what are going to be your biggest accomplishments 3 years from now? What are you going to be known for? Okay, and then the last part is, what is the impact that your company is going to be known for making over the next 3 years? And when you write this whole thing, you want to write it from a 3 years out perspective. So almost like you're standing in the year 2026 and you are talking about how everything looks right now in the year 2026. Because what that does, it allows whoever you're sharing this vision with to actually put themselves in that spot, to put themselves in the future where they can see, they can hear, they can feel everything that you're talking about. And when you do this, it builds the team buy-in. Also, any partners that you start working with or vendors you start working with, give this vivid vision document to them, because just to share a story with you guys, we started talking to martial arts suppliers for Move Martial Arts and creating this franchise, right? And we wanted to find a vendor that was going to grow with us and that would be able to give us bulk pricing right out of the gate, regardless of us having enough locations for bulk pricing. And the funny thing was, as we started to share this vivid vision, there is one supplier that really stood out. It's not a current martial arts supplier, so we're going to be bringing some new shit to the industry. But there's one person that really stood out, and it was because they saw the vision, they believed in the vision, and they said, Adam, we want to grow this with you. So we're going to give you a great deal now, knowing that if we give you a good deal now and give you a good quality product, that in the future, you're going to stick with us because you knew we were the ones there from the beginning, by your side, kicking ass with you. That's what happens as a result of creating this vivid vision and sharing it with people. So if you guys don't get anything else from this podcast, which I hope you do, if you don't get anything else, the one thing I want you to get is create a vision. Okay, and there's when you read through the book, I don't want to just tell you everything that happens. But when you read through the book, it'll walk you through in a step-by-step process how to do this. Think of the book as almost like a instruction manual for creating your vivid vision. And again, if you don't follow Cameron Harold on social media, please follow him. He is a genius, and he's built multiple multi-million-dollar companies. And man, he's so good at really making this vision provide clarity for your business. Okay, so 7 sins number 1 was lack of vision. Number 2, you've probably heard us talking about this on the podcast already, but number 2 is lack of a quality product. So if we think about what our product is as a martial arts school, it's really what happens on the floor and the results that we are providing to our members. And when we think about the results, my question for all of you guys to be brutally honest about yourself with is, are my promises and my marketing being fulfilled through my program on a consistent basis? And I don't mean you can point to 3 students in your school that have been really showing a lot of growth and athleticism and all that stuff. No, it should be a majority. Is at least 80% of your student base getting the results that you are promising in your marketing, that you're promising at the first lesson when they enroll? If they are, your retention is probably ridiculously good. If they're not, you're probably having a retention problem. Now, Adam, how do I know if I'm having an attrition problem or a retention problem? Well, 4% is your number for attrition. Okay, so if you are losing 4% or less of your student base per month, you're in a pretty good spot. If it's more than that, you got some things to look at. Okay, if you're a retention person instead of attrition, you just reverse the numbers. So you should have 96% of your students staying with you month after month and only losing 4%. All right, rewinding a little bit. Our industry is consistently made up of memory-based martial arts curriculum. And if you want more insight on this, go listen to the podcast that I did with Johnny Tension. We talk a lot in depth about that, so I don't want to beat a dead horse. But a lot of us are just teaching what we learned, or just teaching what we know, or just teaching exactly the way we were taught to do it. And I would love for all of you guys to really just detach from your style for a second, to detach from your ego and detach from your pride and take a step back and think about who taught you this or who developed whatever you're teaching currently at your school. All right, so think, who is that person that developed this curriculum? I have one question for you. Was that person an exceptionally skilled martial artist, or were they a curriculum engineering expert? In most cases, the person that founded the martial arts style that you teach, or that came up with the curriculum that you're teaching, was an exceptionally good martial artist, but not a curriculum engineering expert or a curriculum development expert. And the problem is we're afraid to go away from tradition because we don't want to disrespect anyone. But the thing is, we're doing a disservice to our students as a result. So what I'm asking you guys to do is to relook at your curriculum and how it's being taught. I don't care what style you teach, okay? But just look at your curriculum and how it's being taught. Most of us teach a set of curriculum for 3 months, and then we pull out our little Men in Black pen, we erase everyone's memory, and then the next 3 months, they start learning all new stuff that had nothing to do with the previous 3 months. Forget the form, we're going to do a whole new form now. And it has nothing to do with the last form that you learned. Same with our self-defense. Forget what you learned, we're going to do a whole new set of things. Now, with that being said, what we need to think about is building a cumulative curriculum, which means we are teaching curriculum that builds off of the previous season or the previous set of drills or curriculum they just learned. And you can't be afraid to do the same thing for a long period of time. Here's why. If we think about boxing, how many punches are there in boxing? We got jab, cross, hook, lead and rear. We got uppercuts, lead and rear. We got overhand. We got offline, inline, right? Maybe a spinning back fist if you're doing Muay Thai or kickboxing. So really, though, there's like 7 core punches, and that's it. Do you think boxers are teaching like jab, cross, hook, and then the next season doing like a completely different set of techniques or a completely different curriculum altogether? Like, do you think they're doing collie stick training like after they do 3 months of boxing? No, it's not happening. But for some reason in our industry, we don't look at it that way. And I think it's just because we take the truth of whoever taught it to us without actually critically analyzing it for the betterment of our students. So for us, one thing that we did is when we did all of our curriculum, we went back and we said, hey, this is too memory-based. When I see kids looking up at the ceiling when they're punching and kicking and doing their techniques, that shows me that we're doing a memory-based curriculum and not a quality/repetition-based curriculum. So for us, it was really just taking the curriculum, getting rid of all the unnecessary shit that we know doesn't work or that doesn't fit in with the rest of the curriculum, and then making it in a way that it builds off of each other season after season. Okay, it's the same way we think about school. Okay, and whether you like the school system or not, one of the things I do appreciate, at least about the school that our kids go to, is the teacher's not doing 3 months of math, then 3 months of division, and then 3 months of multiplication, and then 3 months of long division, and then like they're not jumping around all over the place, right? It starts with addition with single digit numbers. Then they go addition, adding single digits to double digit numbers, and then double digits and double digits, and then doubles and triples, and then so on. And it keeps building off of what the kids have already learned. That's how your martial arts curriculum should be structured, because that's how kids learn best. So I just want to ask you guys to analyze your curriculum for the betterment of this industry, and just think about it that way, and how we can structure it better to get our students the best results. Removing all pride, all ego, all tradition from the equation. Think that none of that even exists. Like, if I was starting with a blank sheet of paper and it was up to me to create the best curriculum for the future of the martial arts industry, and there's no rules, what would you do? And that's exactly what Jody and I did when we sat down and redid the curriculum for our schools. Is we're like, hey, let's throw everything else out the window. There's no rules. There's no box to fit in. There's no boundary. We don't care what anyone else's opinion is of this curriculum besides our students and our staff. That's it. I don't care what the rest of the industry says about our curriculum. Okay, whether we're following the rules or not. All I care about is creating the best possible martial artists, the best possible athletes, the best possible human beings with this curriculum, and that's it. No loyalty to anything else besides that. That's our mindset on it. Whether you agree or disagree, it's cool. But we do have a quality issue, and a lot of us are using life skills as an excuse to teach crappy martial arts. Oh, but we're teaching them confidence. But you're teaching them how to be confident with a shitty punch. So what's going to happen when they have to protect themselves? It's going to be a false identity. They're going to have a false sense of confidence. They're going to get their ass kicked by some bully at school. And then they come to you and be like, sensei, coach, whatever, why didn't this work? And then we have to address that situation and talk to this parent and this kid about why this kid got his ass kicked when I've been teaching him this move for years and nothing worked. Okay, just something to think about, guys. All right, moving on. So second deadly sin we just covered was lack of quality on the training floor. Third is fear of marketing. All right, there is a saying in marketing that goes like this: whoever is willing to spend the most to acquire a customer will always win. Let me say that one more time. Whoever is willing to spend the most to acquire a customer is the one that wins. Let's rewind and dissect that saying for a little bit here. Okay, let's say we have martial arts school A, martial arts school B. Okay, the competitive martial arts schools in the same radius for Facebook and Google ads. So when they're running ads, they're overlapping each other, right? School A over here has a fear of marketing. So what they're doing is they're spending about $500 a month on Facebook ads, and they are just sort of hoping that they get the number of students they need to grow. Meanwhile, School B over here knows that they have to spend $120 to buy a member or to acquire a new student through marketing, knowing that they're going to spend $3,500 on marketing because they know that's going to get them the exact number of new students they need to grow at the rate they want to grow. Who's winning? Well, Adam, obviously School B is going to win because they have a larger budget. That's not what it's about. School B is going to win because they have more confidence in marketing because they know exactly how much it costs to acquire a new member, where Studio A over here is hope marketing. They're just throwing some money out there and hoping they get enough students to help grow. I used to be Studio A, and then I figured out the formula and easily became Studio B, and we crush it in our marketing every month. We outmarket every school in our area consistently. We outmarket most fitness places in our area consistently, and it's because we are willing to spend more to acquire a student than all of those people, but it's also because we know how much it costs for us to acquire a student. And we also know what the return on every student is. So let me teach you guys how I learned this and how to figure this out, okay? There's a couple key metrics you need to know in order to understand this, all right? First metric you need to understand is what is the lifetime value of a member. So what is the lifetime value of a member in your studio or in your gym? Adam, how do you figure that out? Good question. Here's what you're going to do to figure out lifetime value of a member, all right? Number one, you have to figure out your average value per member first, which really simple. You take the average of your gross revenue, so the average of your total revenue over the last 90 days. So if you're watching this live or in the month of May, you're going to look at April, March, and February. Okay, look at how much money you brought in each one of those months, add it together, divide by 3. That gives you your average. So let's say I did 33, 27, and 30,000. Okay, I have an average of those 3 months of $30,000 per month in revenue. Everyone sticking with me so far? Awesome. You may need to write this down. Okay, so we figured out the average revenue we're bringing in every month for the last 90 days. Always do a 90-day cycle if you can, because if you just look at 1 month, it could be a great month, it could be a horrible month. It's not going to give you accurate data. All right, so $30,000 a month is the hypothetical average for this fake martial arts school we're talking about. Then you're going to take the number of students you have and average that out over the last 3 months as well. Okay, so let's say, just for, I don't know, argument's sake, let's say we have 300 members, which if you're doing 30,000 on 300 members, you got some problems going on, but we're going to make the numbers easy. Okay, so let's say I'm averaging 300 total students over the last 3 months. Okay, I have 30,000 in revenue. To find your average revenue per member, you take the average revenue over the last 90 days divided by the average number of students over the last 90 days. So you're going to take, in this case, $30,000 divided by 300 students, which would equal $100 per student for your average member value. Now, everyone should be over $200 average member value if you're listening to this. Everyone should be over $200. You should have a goal to get to $300 average revenue per member, but you should all make it a goal to go over $200 first. All right, so we have this number, right? We figured out our average revenue per member. That's part 1 of the equation. Part 2 is you need to figure out how long the average student stays with you. So we call this either length of engagement or stick rate, are the two terms. They mean the exact same thing, but it's really just the number of months that an average student stays with you. Right, so let's say I look in my CRM to find this number. If you use Spark, it's in the Ultimate Stats dashboard. If you're using another management solution, I don't know how to find it. You might just have to reach out to them and ask. But let's say we have 10 months is your average stick rate, or your length of engagement. So how long the average student stays with you. Okay, so we know that our average member value is $100. We know that the average time someone stays with us is 10 months. Staying with me so far? All you do is you take $100 times 10 months. That's your lifetime value per student. So in this case, in this example, it'd be $1,000, right? Now, your average member value should be way higher than that. So for our school, our average member value is about $2,600. Okay, average stick rate is about 13 months for us, all right? So that's our numbers. So we know that every single student that signs up on average is going to bring in $2,600 of revenue over the course of their membership with us. Why is that important to know? Well, if I know I'm going to get $2,600 back for every new member we have, don't you think it gives me more confidence to spend more money to acquire a member? If I know I'm getting $2,600 back, am I okay spending $100 to get a new member? Yes. Am I okay spending $150 to get a new member? Probably. Am I okay spending $200 to get a new member? Probably. Is my competition willing to spend $200 to get a new member? No, because they don't know what the return on their investment is, so they don't have confidence in actually putting money into marketing like I have. Now, that's the first part. You got to figure out what's the total investment you're getting back. What's the total lifetime value of your student that you're getting back? Now, I know that. Now I need to figure out how much it costs me to acquire a student on average. Because if I know that number and I know what I'm going to get as a return, I can sort of see, is the investment worth it based on what I'm spending on my marketing. So here's how you figure this out. If you're not doing current paid advertising online, you're going to need to run paid advertising for about 90 days to actually get an accurate number of this, because right now, most likely your marketing budget is 0, and you're going to have an inflated number of walk-bys, referrals, and stuff like that, which 0 divided by anything is 0, right? So you have to do paid advertising to figure this out. But what you do is you do paid advertising for 90 days, and then you're going to look at your average ad spend over those 90 days. All right, so let's say I'm spending $2,000 a month. Okay, then you're going to look at the average number of new members you got over those 90 days per month. So let's say I'm doing 2,000 a month. Let's say I got 20 new members a month. Right, throwing arbitrary numbers out there. All I do is I take the ad spend, divide divide it by the number of new members, average number of new members, and now I get my cost per acquisition. So if I take $2,000 average ad spend, divide by 20 average members, new members per month, I now see that I have 2,000 divided by 20 is $100 cost per acquisition. Now, how does this all tie together? All right, I know if I spend X number of dollars to acquire a student, I get X number of dollars in return. If it's a high multiple of what I'm spending to acquire that I'm getting back on the back end, I'm going to keep spending to acquire. So for example, our cost per acquisition at MX Martial Arts / Going to Be Move is $114 per new member. So I know that if I spend $114 in advertising, it's going to get me one brand new student on a full membership. Now, spending $114, I'm getting $2,600 back for spending $114. Imagine you have a slot machine. And this slot machine, it's $114 to pay the slot machine, but you're guaranteed to win $2,600 every single time. You put the $114 out, you pull the lever, $2,600 spits out. My question for you is, how much money are you putting into that slot machine? Some of you are like, all of it, Adam. Hell yes. When you have it systemized like this and you know how much money it costs to get a customer and how much money you're getting once you get a customer as a result, that lifetime value, right? It makes it so easy to market because you always know how much money is going to be coming back every single time. It's like the best slot machine in the world. So part of the fear in marketing comes from not knowing those numbers we just covered. Because when you don't know how much it costs to acquire a new member and you don't know how much you're actually getting back, it makes it really scary to put money in marketing because you're just sort of guessing at that point, right? So I know there's a lot of math, a lot of numbers, but I hope that makes sense to everyone. And once you guys figure that out, it's going to give you so much more confidence in putting money into marketing because you know how much money you're getting back consistently. All right, let's continue on. So that was number 3 of the 7 deadly sins, fear of marketing. Number 4, pricing. All right. I think one of the biggest things holding our industry back and holding the success of our industry back is we don't value ourselves like we should. If we think about what we're providing for the average student that trains with us, kid or adult, we're really providing life-changing training. Okay, at least we promise that, right? We're helping them to develop and learn life skills and mental toughness and things that are going to stay with them for their entire life. Things that are going to make them a more successful adult. Things that are going to help them to take advantage of more opportunities later in life because of what they learned from their time training with you. And we're charging like $120 a month for that or $150 a month for that. Like, this is life-changing stuff, and it's not an easy profession. And if you're a martial arts instructor or a school owner and you're listening to this, you know that it's not an easy profession. Teaching 5 classes in a row, having to be full energy through all 5 of those classes, having to connect with parents and students and keep them motivated, keep them inspired, even when they don't feel like coming, even when they were on vacation for 2 weeks, helping them get caught back up. You're juggling a lot of different balls here, right? It is a hard profession, and you deserve to be compensated for doing a hard profession. But the problem is we undervalue ourselves. And the weird irony here is we teach confidence, but we don't have confidence to be able to charge what we're worth. All of you guys are worth more. All of you are worth more. Fun little story here. When I first came to the martial arts school that I took over, they were charging $119 a month. So my first month there, we changed it to $140. We had 45 enrollments. This was the month before COVID. We had 45 enrollments that month at the new pricing. And everyone on our team was worried that we weren't going to sign people up because the pricing was too high. We signed up 92% of the people that month at a higher price range. Stick with me. We come out of COVID. We start charging $159 right out of COVID. People are signing up like crazy. No one's balking an eye at the price. Then what we did is every couple months, we just raised it for new members by $20, $20. We're at $229 or $249 for the average new member that starts with us. And guess what? Our closing percentage, so the percentage of people we're enrolling from the first time they come in, has remained at a steady 85 to 87% throughout the last 3 years as we've consistently raised prices again, and again. A lot of you guys overthink the price. You attach too much value to it. Okay, but you guys are worth more. I went to a school down the street from us. I remember a couple years back, and this was when I think we were charging like $159 or $169. And I'm watching the school, and it's terrible. Like, the mat is a disaster. The person teaching class is probably about 200 pounds overweight, leaning against the wall with their hand in their belt, just barking commands. Look like they didn't even care about the students there. There's clutter everywhere in the school. It's dirty. It smells like feet and body odor. And they're charging $179 a month. You know how confident I was walking back to my school telling my staff we're raising prices after visiting that school? There are people providing way less, doing a way worse job than you, charging more than you just because they're more confident in themselves. We need to change that narrative. You guys deserve to make a living and build a legacy for your family, but you can't do it charging pennies on the dollar. You also cannot make as big of an impact to your team and to your community when you're not charging what you should be charging. I want my people, my team, to see this as a career. They can't do that if I'm charging $120 a month at our school or $150 a month. At $229, $249, yeah, we're getting in the right direction. When you guys are a single operator, okay, you're really just thinking about making sure that you're making money, right, and paying the bills and all that stuff, and I get that. But we have to think 3 years ahead, at least 3 years ahead. So if I want to build a team, if I want my team to take pride in what they do, if I want them to be able to brag to their friends about how much they make and how awesome their job is, I need to charge what we're worth. Okay, I need to charge for the future. And one tip that I want to give all of you guys is really simple you can do. Put a 5% annual increase into all of your contracts. This is something the fitness industry does time and time again. And it'll make it so you never have to raise prices on people because it's already factored into their contract. So basically you have something in the initial that says they know that every 12 months that the pricing is going to go up 5% for inflation, to adjust for inflation. Okay, and you do that consistently, and you never have to worry about going back and raising price of the old people because it's set to do it automatically every 12 months. Add that, it'll add thousands of dollars of revenue to your bottom line without having really to do much other work. Okay. All right, thank you for sticking with me. All right, so we just talked about pricing for 7 Deadly Sins number 4. This is my favorite thing to talk about, and probably one of the things I think is lacking most in this industry. 7 Deadly Sins number 5, lack of systems, lack of operations. So what am I talking about when I talk about systems? Systems are something that's written down and duplicatable and easy to train on and proven. They work, right? One of the first things I did when I took over our current school is I went in there and I did an audit for a week. Every single thing they did was on a legal pad. No joke. I asked the front desk person that was working there at the time. I asked her a question. She's like, let me check. Pulls open this drawer, thunk, stack of legal pages, and she's like flipping through for like 20 minutes trying to find the one piece of information that I asked her about. That is lack of systems if I've ever seen it in my life. So what should be systemized? Well, really anything that you're doing repeatedly in your business needs to be systemized, because otherwise it's going to be way harder to train people on it, and there's going to be way more guessing happening, which means if things are kicking ass when you're running it, as soon as you step away and you delegate it to someone else, if you don't have systems, you're going to see everything start to crumble and the results are going to start to go down. And then what typically happens is the CEO or the owner starts blaming that person for failing when they didn't set them up to succeed in the first place. Your sales system should be written down. Your phone call system should be written down. Your lead follow-up system should be written down. How to add a new membership into your CRM should be written down. You should have class plans. Those are the systems for creating consistency on the floor. Okay, you should have retention-based systems, doing courtesy calls, doing member outreach, all of these things. Even if you think that it's common sense, it still needs to be written down in a system. Example A. We have a daily operations checklist that has all of our opening and closing procedures on it, as well as our admin checklist of what she does during the day. We put this checklist into place, and I'd come into the school to spot check it, And every damn time I walked in the school, the open sign was off. So we have like one of those neon signs. And I'm like, how the hell are they forgetting like the most common sense thing of turning the damn open sign on? Like, how is this being forgotten? So I kept getting upset at my staff of them forgetting to turn the open sign on. And then I looked in our daily operations checklist and I realized that we didn't have in the opening procedure, turn it on, and then the closing procedure, turn it off. So I was like, you know what? I messed that up because I didn't set them up for success. And I know some of you guys are like, it's common sense. They should be able to do it on their own. Yes, the good employees will. Okay, but also, like if I'm creating routine, I need to have that baked in. As soon as I started turn the open sign on and then turn it off at the end of the day into our daily operational procedures, guess what happened? Every time I went to the school, the open sign was on. And it was never left on overnight anymore. And it was just by making sure that we had it written down in a place that they look at every single damn day. So even the common sense things, we had to create a system, an SOP, so standard operating procedure, for how to mail a postcard or an envelope. Because I realized that our younger staff were never taught how to address an envelope, where to put the return address, and where to put the stamp. They didn't learn that in school. And I just didn't think about it. Like I remember sitting down with our admin who was 19 at the time, and she's like, hey, can you show me how to address an envelope? And I was like, what? I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, I've never sent mail before. And it like blew my mind, but then I took a step back and I was like, well, that doesn't surprise me. I'm like, how often 19-year-olds have to send anything in the mail ever, right? So we created an SOP that teaches all the young people how to address an envelope, where to put the stamp, where to put the return address, right? So having those systems creates scalability and it also creates sustainability for success, right? The cool thing is, and I'll give you guys a preview, I'm not going to really talk about that much. We have this amazing thing that we're releasing that we've been working on for 3 years now called martialartssystems.com. And it's literally going to be every system for your martial arts school, A to Z, on the mat, off the mat, sales, front desk, phone calls, everything completely done for you and fully editable. So you can edit it to your culture. You can edit it to your school. I think one of the problems in our industry is everything is sort of cookie cutter. So they just give us and do it this way or it's not going to work anyway. Which if you've been a business owner for a while, you know there's a million ways to be successful in any industry, including the martial arts and the fitness industry. There's a million different ways to be successful. We're not going to shove you into this box, okay? What we're going to do is we're going to give you the tools to create the box that you want and having the templates and guidelines to go with it to make it really, really simple. Shameless plug, Adam. When should we look for that? Probably July 1st. All right, we're going to keep going. All right, so lack of systems was the fifth deadly sin. Number 6, lack of knowledge of key performance indicators / statistics. What does that mean? You need to know your numbers for your business. It is your responsibility as the CEO of your business to know and understand the data. We already talked about in this podcast about how just understanding your data on a marketing level gives you a significant advantage over your competition because you're understanding the things that they don't, which means you have more confidence in spending more money to acquire a new member than everyone else in your area, which means you automatically have an advantage. I guarantee if every single gymnastics studio, fitness center, martial arts studio in our area understood cost per acquisition, it would be a lot harder for me to get a new student. I have to spend a lot more, but they don't, luckily. Okay, the same is probably true in your area. But you guys need to know the general numbers of your business because otherwise you don't know what decisions to make, at least not educated decisions on how to grow your business. I want you to think about it this way. If you went to a doctor and you're like, hey, I wanted to come and see you because I have this horrible stomach ache. I have these migraines going along with it and these crazy body aches. And the doctor just looks at you and goes, I'm going to write you a prescription for this. And then just gives you a prescription. What are the odds that prescription actually works? Because they didn't take any vitals. They didn't take your temperature. They didn't do any blood work. They didn't see if it was an allergic reaction to anything. They had no data to make their decision on. And then they're just sort of guessing or going by their gut feeling on what's wrong with you. I don't want that doctor. So to stay in line with what we're talking about, when I really started to focus on my health, I started to change the doctors that I was working with and change the people in the medical field I was working with. One of those people is Gary Brecka, who a lot of you guys got to see speak at the Relentless Summit or heard on this podcast. He's a genius. If you're not following him, please go follow him. But he really got me to start thinking about this from a database perspective. So he did DNA testing. His company did DNA testing for me and showed me what supplements I was missing based on the test data. So there's a specific data to lead to the results of what they needed to fix. My doctor out here, Dr. Shell, she's a rock star. She did a full blood lab workup on me and sat down with a 5-page report and went through everything with me. She's like, hey, your vitamin D is terrible. We need to supplement this. Hey, your testosterone is not where it should be. We're going to put you on TRT. And she started walking through everything with me. And as a result of working with these two individuals who are both doing everything based on data, I feel the best I've ever felt in my life. I'm the healthiest I've ever felt in my life. I would have never thought that age 37, I'd be getting ready to do a Muay Thai fight. Craziness. I might be 38. I forget my age sometimes. Fun fact. But I wouldn't feel like I feel if it wasn't for these doctors doing database decision making to help me feel my best. And I never get sick. It's amazing. But tying this back into you guys as a martial arts school, a lot of you are trying to diagnose what is wrong with your business without knowing the data, without knowing the statistics. So let's talk about what numbers you should know. So number one, you need to know what your profit is. Okay, a lot of us are running our business and you're just taking the leftovers and that's your profit. You're going to spend you're going to overspend all the time if you're not actually making this a point of focus. Very minimum 15% profit margin, hopefully closer to 35-40%. Because if you get close to that 35% mark, you're making a pretty good income off of one location as a martial arts school owner. All right. Also, you need to know your revenue. Okay, what are you making every single month? Because you want to be able to predict for unexpected expenses and all of those things. You need to know what your revenue is going to be so you can set also revenue goals to help you grow. All right, you need to know the marketing data that we already talked about. You also should know what your lifetime value is, your average revenue per member, your length of engagement, how long they're sticking around for. The reason that number is especially important, besides helping us figure out our lifetime value, it also shows you where people are quitting. So, for example, let's use our school as an example on this. So 13 months is our average time a member stays with us at our school. If I look at our curriculum, 13 months tells me that we're losing them about a month into intermediate level for the people that are leaving. So what does that mean? That means I probably need to do something a couple months before that to increase their buy-in, to get them resold on the benefits, to do something interesting to get them to keep pushing forward. Now we're going to have a lot of data coming out once we've been doing the curriculum for at least that amount of time to see if that's improved how long people stay or not. So far on the attrition side, it's improved by at least 1.5% to 2%. But knowing that lets us know where we need to look on a retention basis in the timeline or the belts to see where we need to fix curriculum. Hopefully that makes sense to everyone. Okay. Also continuing on, you need to make sure that you guys also have an understanding of what your net billing is. Okay. So your net billing is either the billing gain or the billing loss. So it could be a positive or it could be a negative number. So for example, let's say I charge $200 a month. I lose 5 students and I enroll 0. My net billing would be negative $1,000 because I'm losing 5 students that are all paying $200 a month. Okay. And I didn't enroll anyone. So I have negative $1,000. Let's say I enroll 10 at $200 a month, but I lose 5 of them. Okay. Then I have a positive net billing of $1,000. Okay. Because I had 5 people paying $200 that quit. But then I got 10 new ones paying $200. So 5 of those cancel out these 5. So really, I got five new members at $200 per month, giving me a net billing of positive $1,000 per month. Okay, your net billing is your growth metric. It lets you know how much billing you're consistently adding month after month because billing is really the lifeblood of your martial arts. Now, a lot of you guys out there do pay in fulls. Please be careful with that. If you're not super financially disciplined and not touch that money, then pay in fulls can crush your business and kill your business. Also, from a sales perspective, you want to make sure you have consistent billing incoming because if you want to sell the business at some point, Okay, they're going to be looking at your monthly receivables, right? Now, I saw this question in another group. They're like, well, why would you ever do month-to-month billing? Why wouldn't you always do term? Because you can't sell a business that's doing month-to-month. Talked to Travis Renner, my business partner, who sold 100 locations, all doing month-to-month. Okay, when you're doing month-to-month and you're selling your location, what they're going to look at besides your monthly recurring revenue, they're also going to go back and look at what your retention is. And that's part of how they come up with the evaluation. So it doesn't matter if you're month-to-month or if you're doing term agreements for the purpose of selling your business at some point. Just wanted to throw that in there. But you need to know your numbers, guys. And then you need to know last year's numbers so you can compare year over year. You need to know last month's numbers so you can compare month over month and all of those things. We have a spreadsheet that we give all of our clients called the CEO dashboard, which helps them to track all of this at a glance. So that way they can easily look this year versus last year and compare multiple different KPIs and statistics and make it super easy. Okay, let's continue on. Okay, so that was number 6, was knowing your numbers. And then the 7th deadly sin, and I'm sure you guys can think of 15 more for our industry, but we're going to stick with these 7. The 7th one is not understanding people and culture. So what does that mean? Let's start with the culture side. If you don't have a specific culture in place, culture will be created out of thin air. And it won't be a culture you're happy with. I always go back to this quote. I think it's the greatest quote that applies to everything in life and business, and it's from Alice in Wonderland. Cheshire Cat said, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. The same thing is true with your culture. If you don't have intention behind what the culture in your business should be, then any culture is going to do. Any culture will just be created, and any road will take you to get to that culture. You have to be intentional about your culture. You have to be intentional about your core values of your business, and you should have core values of your business because that's the pillars of your culture. And then you, as the leader and the CEO of your business, you are the chief culture officer. You are the one that has to show it, display it, be the example, be the living, breathing version of your culture day in and day out, which means you can't do things like complain to your staff about what's going on in your life because honestly, they don't give a shit and it's going to kill the culture. You have to be the leader all the time, no matter what. You don't get a day off being the owner. You don't get a day off being the CEO. Like it is a 24/7 thing. Adam, I thought you hate hustle culture. I do, but you have to have that mindset 24/7 to always be on, okay, especially in front of your team. So you need to set that example. And then once you have core values, you need to talk about them all the time. Okay, you need to be pointing to people that are embracing those core values and calling them out and spotlighting them for doing so. Hey man, Gabe, I am so appreciative of you. I see you showing we over me all the time. Whenever I see someone that needs help with something, you're the first one to step in and say, hey man, how can I help you? How can we make your job easier? That's what I love about you. When you start praising the people that are embracing your core values, the rest of the team buys in more. It's just like in class. When you praise one kid in front of the rest of the class, if you're like, hey, great stance, Johnny, what happens to every kid around Johnny? All their stances, poof, instantly lower. The same is true with the culture with your team and your employees. When you start praising people that are showing the culture, everyone else grabs onto the culture more. The other thing that we have a big issue about when it comes to people and culture in our industry is lack of training. Lack of training. I'm not talking about martial arts training. I'm talking about training on communication, on business systems, on running drills, on doing mat chats, on answering the phone, on calling leads and doing follow-ups, giving tours, talking to parents and grown-ups. A lot of us have staff that's really great at talking to kids, but get awkward as hell when they have to talk to an adult. I used to be that kid when I was 17, having talked to adults, acting awkward as hell because I'd never practiced it or role played it. We have a lack of training issue in this industry. I was talking to one of my friends that runs $1 million business, multi-million-dollar business, and we were talking about how often we train. He's like, man, he goes, we do 15 hours a week of training in our business. But he goes, we also have employees that have been with us for 15 years and never left because our training is so damn good that they feel so confident and proficient at what they do. And he goes, also, the other side of this is we don't need a giant staff because we have a staff of rock stars. So most companies their size runs with 30, 40, 50 people. He's got 16 killers working for him. and running at the same pace or a better pace as far as revenue goes than his competition who has twice the overhead because they have twice the amount of people. It's all about training. Now, I'm not saying that you as a martial arts school need to do 15 hours of training a week, but if I ask you, how many hours a week are you doing training with your team? Is there a number to that to begin with? And what should it be? Well, I'm going to tell you what we do. I don't know if it's right, but it's working for us. So I'll share with you what we do. So on Mondays, we do an hour meeting followed by 45 minutes of training. So it's a staff meeting where we go over everything that needs to happen for the week. We'll go over victories and challenges from the previous week. We go the areas of focus for this upcoming week to make sure everyone's doing what they need to hit their responsibilities. Okay, and then we'll also go over upcoming events at this to make sure everyone's on the same page as well. And then we touch on anything that we need to improve on in the classroom. Then training happens. So the instructors go on the mat. They start role-playing through class plans. All the staff that's not an instructor will go to the front. They'll start role-playing phone scripts or sales scripts or whatever we need to focus on during that time. Adam, how do you know what to train them on? Your numbers. Your numbers will tell you all. If your closing percentage is under 85, guess what? We're role-playing sales. Okay, if our lead to trial ratio is under 50%, meaning less than 50% of our leads are purchasing trials, then guess what we're training? We're training lead follow-up. We're training phone call script. Your numbers will help dictate to you what your team needs to be trained on because you'll be able to see those weaknesses glaring like a giant red pimple, right? That was a horrible analogy, sorry. So we have that hour and 45 minutes on Mondays. Then on Tuesdays, I go in and I train just with our head coaches. Okay, we do physical training, we do curriculum training, we do drill training. And then I also make sure that they're very clear on what to do in all of the classes so that all of us are on the same page moving forward. Right? And they ask any questions that they need to ask during that time. I also meet with my manager for 45 minutes every Tuesday to see what we need to focus on and make sure that we're on track for hitting all of our KPIs and our goals that we're focused on. Thursday, leadership team meeting. Not like upgrade program leadership team, but like our managers or the head coaches. Managers and head coaches get together. They have a book that they read a chapter a week in that they come to the meeting with, their notes, and they share their biggest takeaways from that book. All right, if you want a book to start with The 5 Levels of Leadership by John Maxwell. Great book to start with, especially for your leadership team. Okay, but we start with that. Then we go over more high-level strategy for the school. So more talk in this is about how to get to our goals. If we're lacking a goal, what we need to do to make up in order to get to that goal. Okay, all high-level stuff, management stuff. So talking about one-on-ones with team members, talking about how to better manage team members to get the most out of them. All of those things happen in this meeting. And then Saturdays, we do an hour for our instructor training. So every single instructor at the school comes to this hour, and we have a full instructor course that I built out for everyone. And we go through a little bit of the instructor course every week. It'll be part classroom, part role play. And then we continue to do that. There's testing in it and all of that. So if we add all of that together, let's say 2 hours on Monday, hour on Tuesday, we got an hour and a half on Thursday, so it's like 4.5 hours, another hour Friday, so 5.5 hours a week for us. And then we also do a monthly instructor boot camp that's about 2 hours, where everyone comes to that, and we just do a heavily intensive on drills and curriculum, communication drills, public speaking drills, everything that's really going to help them be a great instructor. Now, the other thing, it's not just about how many times you train. It's about the quality of the training that you're providing for those people. So one thing that drastically helped with this for us is, I'm giving Cameron Harold another shout out. He's got a book that says called Meetings Suck. Another good one to read. But we stole this from Cameron Harold. In his companies, he allows anyone to leave a meeting if the person running the meeting didn't come with a printed agenda to hand out to everyone. We adopted that same rule for our meetings. If the person running the meeting, whether it's the head coach or the manager or myself, doesn't come with a written agenda, anyone in that meeting can get up and leave without any consequences. Because most likely, whoever came to lead that meeting, if they don't have an agenda, it means they probably didn't plan anything for the meeting, which means it's probably just going to be a waste of everyone's time to begin with. So why make people sit through that? The other thing that I found is really helpful to making sure meetings don't get dragged on is have everyone stand up during the meeting. Sitting down, everyone gets comfortable, and it just keeps going and going and going and going. Instead, have your entire team stand up for the meeting. It'll go twice as fast and be way more efficient as a result. I hope today we're able to cover 7 areas that hopefully open everyone's eyes to what needs to be changed in our industry, what we can do better, and maybe just give you guys some self-reflection for your own businesses. And I want to be totally transparent, guys. We are not perfect at all 7 of these in my own business, okay? There's still things that we have to go back in and retrain. There's still things that we have to go back in and tweak and correct, systems that'll break, and then we go in and fix them, and then they get better. That's always going to happen in a business, okay? It's part of it. So I don't want you to think that we got everything figured out and perfect. What I will say is we have it pretty figured out as far as consistency goes. Okay, we're consistently at $70,000 a month at our school. Okay, going up here, going down a little, but consistently at $70,000 as an average. And we have an entire team of people running it that doesn't require me to be there. We have a 21-year-old manager. We have a head coach that's 20 years old. And together, they're running a $70,000 per month martial arts school with the rest of our part-timers. They're doing a pretty damn good job. But it's because of we've spent a lot of time working on those 7 things that we talked about on this podcast, all right? When you're walking away from this, it might seem like information overload, but figure out what's the one thing I can take away from this podcast and implement this week. Just one, okay? You're going to stress the shit out of yourself if you try and implement 7 different things. Take one thing from this podcast, take it to your team, be like, hey guys, I want to put this into place. We need to focus more on this because I know it's going to make us better as a company. It's going to paint a better future for all of you guys and give you guys more opportunities. And I'm asking you guys to help me with this so we can do this as a team to move forward. Doing it that way and explaining it to your team that way will get them to buy in. If you go into your business and, hey guys, we're changing this, we're doing this because Adam said to do it this way in the podcast, no questions asked. No one's going to buy in. They're going to fight you on it like crazy. You need to make your team a part of the process and a part of the process of actually installing this and creating whatever systems you need to put into place in your business. Because if they're part of the process, they will protect the process. They will enforce the process because they were part of creating it. It's their baby as well as your baby now. Everyone's protecting that baby. If you do it yourself, it's just your baby. And people only give a shit about their own kids. They don't care about your kids, right? So I hope you got some good information and some good data. We got a lot of cool podcast episodes coming up. We got a marketing expert coming up. We have my fight coach coming up. He's going to come on here and talk about how he trains fighters. He's trained tons of champions, some guys in the UFC as well. So he'll be on here in a few weeks, giving you guys the lowdown on the torture and the pain that he puts me through on a daily basis. Thank you guys for joining. As always, remember to hit that subscribe button. If you know anyone that could benefit from this podcast, please share it with them. Share some of the reels that we have coming out about the podcast as well. Our goal, again, is to push this industry into the future, make it respectable, make it as successful as it should be, and we need your guys' help to do that. Thanks, guys. See you on the next one.
We're unstoppable, to the top, we about to go. That CEO, I need to know the impact we about to grow. Competition, comical, straight A1, we on the road. Money focus for the goal, tell them what they need to know.